Hey, what's up, y'all? It's D about to react to this vid by Tub. It's titled When Police Ignored Clear Warning Signs. Lord, sometimes they definitely don't do their job and do what they're supposed to do. So let's see what they missed in this vid. Let's watch.
Every police officer is trained to look for warning signs. The small details that tell you a situation isn't as routine as it seems. A suspect who refuses to step out of a car, a house that feels wrong the moment you walk inside, a routine shoplifting call where something just doesn't add up. Most of the time, those instincts are what keep people alive. But sometimes the signs are missed, dismissed, or simply underestimated. And when that happens, ordinary calls turn into ambushes, traffic stops become shootouts, and homes meant to protect children hide unimaginable horror. In this video, we're looking at cases where the red flags were already there, visible, documented, even warned about. Yet within minutes, everything spiraled into violence that could never be taken back. This is when police ignored clear warning signs. Jamie Cushman case. It's 10:40 in the morning on August 1st, 2022, and New Mexico State Police Sergeant Gerardo Hernandez is pulling up to a house on Curry County Road in Texaco, a tiny town of about 1,100 people right on the Texas border. They knock on the door to get no answer. The door's unlocked, so they push in, announcing themselves over and over. Inside, the house is quiet, empty, well, at least empty of people. Sergeant Hernandez immediately smells fresh smoke, so someone was there. Strange because there's no other signs of anyone being around. Also strange is that when walking through the rooms, it gets immediately creepy. Some walls are covered in crucifixes right here in the living area and this bedroom as well. It's unsettling, sure, but nothing illegal yet. Then the search takes a darker turn. They find heavy metal chains with padlocks scattered throughout the house. In another room, they find a bunk bed with a chain bolted to the frame. When the deputies lift it to get a better look, an alarm suddenly starts blaring.
Horrible, man. That's not right for children.
That's when they realize that every bed in the house has chains nearby, and it's clear they're meant for children, because there are even a couple of teddy bears left on the beds. There's also a wall mounted with various firearms, and a foster house that's, supposedly supposed to be taking care of the kids. The House of Horrors extends outside, though, where the police find a separate shed. Inside, there's a bed, a television, and wooden paddles, the kind clearly used to beat children. By the time the search wraps up, Jamie Cushman, 37 years old, and her girlfriend Jamie Senna, age 29, arrive home. Police immediately seize their phones. Knowing what was going on inside that house, you'd think they'd be at least a little worried, but honestly, both women seem completely calm about all of this.
Lock them up.
Can I tell something to you?
Yeah.
There's going to be an element videos on there.
That's not my concern.
Okay.
Senna casually mentions she has, quote, adult videos on her phone, but otherwise they act like it's just routine, like police executing a search warrant and finding chains bolted to beds is no big deal. Fast forward 3 months. Investigators have spent weeks extracting over 1,400 videos from security cameras that were hidden in the children's rooms. When they sit Senna down to show her the footage, her reaction is chilling. She watches a video of an 11-year-old boy chained to his bed and just says, wow, that's it. All on screen, there's the video evidence of a child literally shackled by his ankle to a bed frame with no sheets or pillows, unable to escape even to use the bathroom. One kid was chained for 14 consecutive hours with no food, water, or toilet access. Senna eventually admits that the children were chained, but she tries to downplay it, claiming one of them could easily get out. Except the investigators already knew that the chain was rigged with an alarm that would alert the adults if they moved. And the other chain, that one was bolted directly into the wall.
So, could you imagine if there was a fire in that house? You will burn to death.
As the officer points out, if there was a fire, that child would literally burn to death with no way to escape. But then something else happens that shocks everyone in that room. Senna asks for a moment and reaches into her pocket to turn off her phone. All this time, she'd been on a call with Cushman, letting her listen in real time to everything being said. Quote, you just tampered with evidence, the officers immediately tell her.
You know what you just did? You just tampered with evidence.
4 weeks after Senna's interrogation and with her cooperation, police finally track down Cushman at a fairground near the edge of town. As they arrest her and put her in the back of the squad car, she has the audacity to ask for a couple of cigarettes before the drive. They tell her no.
Anyone can have the cigarettes and a cigarette before I get in the car?
No.
The 6 children rescued from that house, ranging from ages 5 to 16, had endured nearly a decade of torture. In July of 2023, Cushman pled guilty to 5 counts of child and was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
Oh, that's horrible.
Michael Banks' arrest. A 911 call comes in around 12:42 p.m. on January 17, 2024 with a woman's voice. Tampa police officer Darren Gibson's body cam captures him sprinting towards the scene on the block of North 23rd Street, and immediately you can hear women screaming. 2 women come running from the property. One of them is a 60-year-old mother who made that 911 call. She has blood streaming down her face from where a bullet grazed her head. The other is completely naked, and it's the shooter's 10-year-old daughter, who'd been in the shower when the shooting started. Despite the chaos, the officer stayed remarkably calm. He quickly tells both the woman and the girl to take cover behind the cruisers while backup rushes to the scene. As they crouch there, the woman tells him the gun is a revolver, the kind with a cylinder, so there should be 6 shots in it. Then things go sideways fast. Gibson moves towards the fence line to get a better view of the backyard. He peers over, spots the suspect, a man in a black jacket, and immediately shouts, "Let me see your hands." But instead of complying, 42-year-old Michael Monroe Banks opens fire. Multiple shots ring up pretty quickly, and Gibson returns fire as he scrambles for cover. More officers flood the scene, some covering the front, others moving to the rear of the property. Banks keeps moving, darting back inside the house at one point, then re-emerging. At one point, he briefly opens the front door, screaming something at the officers, then it slams shut again. Finally, after a few tense minutes, Banks comes outside with his hands up. He follows orders and drops to the ground while the officers rush over to grab him. And as they're putting the handcuffs on, Banks starts weirdly rambling on and on about how important his computer files are.
My computer files are all important.
But that's not the only thing suspicious here, because when the officers ask him if he has any medical issues, pay close attention to what he says.
Any medical conditions, Mike? I'm disabled. I have a bunch of medical conditions. What are some of them? Just what? My right leg's all messed up. And dementia, schizophrenia.
Okay.
Dementia at 40?
What else? You poisoned me.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm sure there are some cases where people who are younger have dementia, but that typically affects people who are much older.
There's something up to dentist. Okay.
It sounds like a desperate attempt to play the victim, but he's in custody now, so it's time to focus on the real victims left behind. The officers head back to clear the house, knowing there might still be a third person trapped inside. When they get to the kitchen, they find her, 52-year-old Josephine Fuentes, who was the mother's best friend and roommate. She's lying on the floor, and it's clear she didn't survive the gunshot to the head. Right there on the table, they find the gun. It's a large, old-fashioned revolver that Banks had carefully packed with black powder and blasting caps in every single chamber. Thankfully, none of the officers were hit. Banks' mother and daughter weren't severely injured either. Both suffered grazing wounds, superficial but terrifying. And now the big question is, what drove Michael Banks to attack these 2 women and the girl? Quote, supposedly, he's in love with his daughter.
Supposedly, he's in love with her. They're realizing that he's mentally ill and got some situation going on with his own daughter. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
His own daughter?
Scratches the surface on how disturbing this case actually is. It turns out Banks was already a violent criminal with a history of hurting people. To make things worse, he was still living with his mother at 42, but he was hiding a dark secret. He had been sending, quote, love letters to his own 17-year-old daughter, demanding she marry him and no one else. When his mother and Josephine found out and talked about kicking him out, Banks snapped. He overheard them in the kitchen and felt betrayed, so he went to his room, carefully loaded his gun, and walked back out to shoot Josephine in the head at point-blank range. But he didn't stop there. He went to shoot his mother and daughter. Banks is now facing charges for murder and attempted murder. He's pleaded not guilty and is staying behind bars until his trial starts this August.
Electric chair.
In police work, warning signs come often in the form of subtle cues that a situation is about to boil over. On the night of December 8, 2025, a flock camera in Newtown, Ohio, picks up a stolen license plate on a black Dodge Charger. The alert goes out to police, and Officer Andrew Niederschmidt spots the vehicle pulling into the VIP Smoke Shop parking lot at 7300 Main Street. At this point, he knows it's about the stolen plate. What he doesn't know yet is that the entire car is stolen too. Niederschmidt radios as he parks and approaches the driver's side. Inside the Charger, there are 4 occupants, the driver and 3 passengers. The kid behind the wheel is 20-year-old Jeremiah Ice from Forest Park. And yeah, he has this baby-faced look that makes him seem even younger than he is, which also means that he's way more reckless than anyone would expect. The officer opens the driver's door and immediately orders Ice out of the vehicle, just as he probably did 1,000 times before. But then Ice does something that should have been a huge red flag. Instead of complying, he tells the officer to calm down.
What?
Like the officer's the one overreacting here.
Get out. Get out. Calm down. Put it in park.
Niederschmidt's not having it, so he kept commanding Ice to exit the vehicle, and Ice himself keeps insisting he's about to do it, but he isn't getting out. Instead, he's got his hand on the gear shift. Niederschmidt notices and his commands shift. He's now ordering Ice to put the car in park, keep his foot on the brake, warning him to not try driving off or he's going straight to jail. That's when Ice makes his move. He throws the Charger into reverse and starts backing up, but Niederschmidt is still positioned at the driver's door. And suddenly he's pinned between the door and the body of the car. The vehicle drags him backwards across the parking lot, somewhere between 20 and 30 feet and an estimated 10 to 15 miles per hour. Finally, for a brief moment, there's this pause where Niederschmidt manages to pull himself free from the vehicle. And then, just like that, Ice floors it and speeds off, leaving the officer standing there in the parking lot. But don't think for a second that this dude got away with it. The stolen Dodge Charger is later recovered in Forest Park, and, well, Ice actually turned himself in. He caught an Uber to the police station to surrender and took full responsibility. Meanwhile, Officer Niederschmidt managed to walk away with only minor injuries. But looking back, that baby-faced guy sitting in a stolen car and telling a cop to, quote, calm down should have been the first warning sign that this was never going to be a routine stop.
Calm down.
Glenn,
what? Get out the car,
this
thief.
next case takes us to rural Wisconsin, where warning signs were acknowledged, documented, and then ignored anyway. On the morning of April 8, 2023, Barry County Sheriff's Captain Jason Hagan sends out an email to all law enforcement in the area. The subject is Glenn Douglas Perry, a 50-year-old man from New Auburn who's wanted on a civil bench warrant for failing to pay child support. But wait, the police don't usually hear.
One thing I'm noticing is that these people look way older than they actually are, most of them. Crime ages you. Just a thought.
They're up like that for a simple child support case, do they? The real story was that Perry had been struggling with his mental health and was really spiraling. He was known to carry his gun at all times and had a serious grudge against the government and the cops. That same afternoon, 32-year-old Chautauqua police officer Emily Bradenbach is on routine patrol when she spots Perry's SUV. She knows about the warrant and she knows about the warning email. So instead of immediately pulling him over, she calls for backup. 23-year-old Cameron police officer Hunter Shield responds, and together they decide to attempt the traffic stop when Perry drives into the village of Cameron on Highway SS. Bradenbach activates her emergency lights. Perry pulls over. She does a high-risk stop with her gun already drawn given the warnings about this man. But then Perry gets out of his car holding an AR-15 rifle. He points it right at Bradenbach and starts shooting immediately. She's able to radio in that he has a gun, but sadly, she's hit and killed. Shield hears the shots and runs over for cover behind his vehicle, calling out over the radio. He tries to fire back, but Perry keeps moving towards him. Sadly, he is hit multiple times and falls to the ground. Shield's body camera is still recording, and at this second, you can see Perry walk past carrying his rifle. The entire attack, from the moment Perry exited the vehicle to both officers being fatally shot, takes about 45 seconds. When backup finally pulled up, the scene was quiet, but it was a total nightmare. They found 3 people down on the ground, the 2 officers and the suspect. During the shootout, one of the bullets had actually hit Perry in the leg. It must have hit an artery because even though he managed to limp back towards his car, he collapsed right there on the pavement with his AR-15 and a handgun still right by his side. When police cleared the area, they even found another rifle sitting in his car. Later, investigation revealed that all those guns were legal. Back in 2011, Perry actually had a mental health order that banned him from owning any firearms, but that order was allowed to expire. Once it was off his record, he was free to go out and buy whatever he wanted, including the very rifle he used that day to kill the officers. And it's not like this came out of nowhere. The warning signs were there. His ex-wife had told people she thought he was bipolar and schizophrenic. There was an ex-girlfriend who said he was buying guns every single week, obsessed with the idea that the country was going to war. At one point, he was driving around with 5 guns just sitting in his trunk. The police were told to be careful. They knew he was dangerous. And sadly, during what should have been a routine stop, 2 young officers were gone in less than a minute. Jesse Pat.
Fucked up.
Around 6:43 p.m. on July 8, 2024, a call came in about a house fire in the 2600 block of West Crescent Street in Racine, Wisconsin. Firefighters and police arrived to find a single-story home in flames. To this point, it was standard response and routine procedure. That is, until officers secure the perimeter and start talking to neighbors who mentioned something that immediately changes the context of the entire scene. Police quickly confirmed that the homeowner, 64-year-old Cheryl Christensen, is currently out on bond, awaiting trial for the wrongful death of her 46-year-old disabled son, Shanell. Quickly, the fire department radios that they found 1 person dead inside. At this point, investigators are still treating it as a tragic fire death. Maybe Cheryl got trapped because she couldn't get out in time. They confirmed the victim is Cheryl Christensen. Investigators start piecing together how the fire started, checking for electrical issues, looking for the typical causes. They found propane tanks very close to where the body was found. Aside from that, there's a problem. Cheryl has another son, Jesse Pat Sr., who was reportedly with her on and off, supposedly living in the basement. And right now, nobody knows where he is. So the officers head down to the basement to look for Jesse and figure out how the fire started. But when they get there, they find a bunch of power strips that have been messed with on purpose. It was pretty obvious right away that someone had intentionally set this house on fire. A few days pass, and the autopsy shows that Cheryl Christensen didn't die from smoke inhalation or burns. She was shot 4 times in the arms and head, and her body was already in such bad shape that it was clear she'd been dead for several days. With all these questions piling up, there was really only one person they needed to talk to, Jesse Pat Sr. The problem was, there was still no sign of him anywhere, and the investigation hit a dead end. Then, 2 days later, police get a call around 10 in the morning from a hiker at Cliffside Park in Caledonia. The caller reports finding what they believe is a dead body near some ponds about 100 yards down a path. Officers Jonathan and others walk northbound along the trail towards the water. When they arrive, they find a man chilling, lying on his belly near the edge of the pond. Thinking the guy might be hurt, the police offer to help him out, but he just laughs it off. Then they ask for his name. Officers run his information and discover there's an active warrant for his arrest, but even more importantly, they also realize that this is Cheryl Christensen's son. Officers move in closer and take him into custody, and that's when Jesse suddenly pulls out a gun. Officers immediately scramble for cover, shouting for him to drop the gun. But what he says next confirms exactly what investigators suspected.
You said you wanted to talk to the detective. What did you want to tell him?
What my mother said about how she killed my brother?
Negotiator's on his way in his own vehicle.
So he killed her?
Brother.
Left his ass next to the because he was a handicap. Shoved pills down his throat and everything else for 5 days. Then he died and then left his body there for 5 days next to the
That's horrible.
Yeah. I sat there and I lived inside that house and everything else for 3 months with that bitch. 3 months. She finally got used to me a little bit and told me some things, man. She told me straight on out, she goes, I wish I had somebody there to help me while Shanell passed away. I said, bitch, you'd still be alive today.
When Jesse found out what she'd done, how she let his disabled brother suffer and die, rather than call for help, he lost it. He shot her 4 times with a .45, then left her body inside the house to decompose for 7 days, just like what she'd done to Shannon. Then he sets the house on fire. To be fair, Jesse actually seems cooperative, but for some reason the police try to bring him in safely by using less lethal rounds, which only made him reach for his gun again. That's when the real fire starts, and the 37-year-old is killed right there on the spot. He was just looking for some sick revenge for what happened to his brother. Police Case 6.
Oh, it's a horrible situation.
A routine shoplifting call at Walmart turns into an execution attempt in a matter of seconds.
But it's like, why didn't you just report her, brother? You didn't have to kill her. You could have just, been like, hey, she confessed she killed my brother.
Around 1:45 p.m. on December 19th.
And they said she was already under investigation for it or something like that. At the beginning, that's what he said.
2025, a Canton police officer responds to the Walmart on Atlantic Boulevard for suspected shoplifting. Loss Prevention has detained 2 people, 21-year-old Shane Newman and 23-year-old Katarina Jeffrey, both caught on camera allegedly stealing items from the store. The officer escorts both suspects into Walmart's Loss Prevention office, a small room in the back of the store with a desk and chairs. The only thing you need to know about the space is that this is a controlled environment. It's away from customers. Here, police typically process these kinds of minor retail theft cases. So, following procedure, the officer pats Neiman down before letting him sit. That's quick. Then Jeffrey asks the officer a question that, in hindsight, feels almost prophetic.
Something crazy happened.
Minutes pass. The officer is processing the paperwork, running the information. The atmosphere in that small room is tense but manageable. Apparently they're both cooperating, but how much longer can they keep up that front? We'll find out in just a few seconds. Then Newman shifts in his seat and reaches behind his back like he's adjusting something. But in just one motion, he pulls a handgun from his pouch that the officer had missed having the hand out. He raises it directly at the officer's face, mere inches away, and pulls the trigger. But the gun doesn't fire. It all happened in a matter of seconds, and luckily, this guy here didn't hesitate. He immediately lunges at Newman, tackling him before he could rack the slide and try again. The officer jumps in, and the 3 of them crash to the floor. The officer and Conrad, that's the guy in the tie, by the way, managed to pin Newman down and get him into handcuffs. And I know you're all thinking this all could have been avoidable if he just did a better search, and you're right. You're very right. When they looked closer at the gun, they saw it had what looked like a laser sight on it, with a magazine lying right there on the floor next to it. They also found 50 blue pills on Newman, which...
Nigga, you gonna shoot them over shoplifting at Walmart? They probably would have even let you go. That was worth getting a charge, an attempted murder charge? People are stupid.
If that wasn't bad enough, he has previous felony convictions, so he wasn't even allowed to have a gun with him. When it was all said and done, he was charged with attempted murder, felonious assault on a police officer, robbery, drug possession, and having a weapon under disability. He ended up in court with a $1 million bond. As for Katerina, she was charged with helping him carry out the robbery, and her bond was set at $500,000. And Conrad, well, the guy's basically a hero. Daniel Payne.
That is crazy.
Most of the time, we talk about red flags as something that only makes sense in hindsight. But in this case, the warnings were staring the officers right in the face. And it started with a routine truck stop in Illinois that ended with a police chief fighting for his life. It happened back in 2022, almost midnight. Maridosia police officer Steve Lowry clocks a white Chevy pickup doing 54 miles per hour in a 25 miles per hour zone. The truck crosses over the Illinois River Bridge, and Lowry pulls it over about half a mile down the road. Lowry approaches the driver's side, asks for a license. Right away, he notices red flags.
What's going on?
He looked crazy now.
Yes. Driver's license?
The driver's speech is slurred, there's a strong smell of alcohol coming from the vehicle, and there's an open beer can near the passenger seat. Lowry suspects the driver, 29-year-old Daniel Bowen Payne, from Greenbrier, Tennessee, may have tried to toss the can out the window and into the river before getting pulled over. Then Lowry sees what really started this whole thing, an uncased handgun sitting in plain view on the passenger side floorboard.
Okay, put your hands up. What's a gun doing there in the corner? Go and turn the truck off. Turn the truck off. Turn the truck off.
Grab the gun.
No.
Instead, Payne floors it. The truck takes off westbound, and Lowry's back in his patrol car calling it in. The chase heads west on Highway 104, then Payne suddenly turns north on Bryant Street, back towards downtown Maridosia. Chapin Police Chief Steve Helmich hears the radio traffic and responds to assist. He was about 12 miles away when the call went out, but he's the closest officer available. Helmich arrived just as Payne's truck turns back onto Highway 104, heading out of town again. Speeds climb to 76, then 85, then 88, then 97 miles per hour, and then even 104. Payne's all over the roadway now. The pursuit continues at even more insane speeds, on average two-lane roads with a maximum speed of 55. At one point, Payne suddenly turns onto a gravel road, then just as quickly, Payne's back on the pavement, heading northbound on 107 again at 96 miles per hour. They blow through the intersection with Highway 104, into Brown County now. Helmich has been leading this chase for over 20 minutes, covering nearly 33 miles at an average speed of 90 miles per hour. Payne's truck starts notifying that he's losing control. Then at mile marker 4, Payne's luck runs out. The truck slams into a guardrail and crashes hard. The 38-minute pursuit covering 47.5 miles is finally over. Helmich jumps out of his patrol car and starts giving commands for Payne to exit his vehicle and show his hands. But Payne instead jumps out and opens fire directly at him several times. As the chief goes down, the other officers fire back. Both men survived. In court, Payne tried to act like he didn't remember the shooting. He's now serving 28 years and won't see daylight until 2048. All this over a speeding ticket and a beer. Ernesto Sepulveda. This next case takes us to Los Angeles, where what starts as a bike safety stop turns into an ambush in seconds. It's in the afternoon of July 5th, 2025, and two LAPD officers are patrolling the Western Avenue corridor near Martin Luther King Park and Exposition Park. They spot a man riding a bicycle on the sidewalk, 26-year-old Ernesto Sepulveda. The bike has no lights and no brakes. These are basic traffic violations. But there's something else that catches their attention. It looks like there's a gun bulging from his pocket, so naturally the officers stop him. But Sepulveda doesn't put his hands behind his back. Instead, he takes off running southbound towards the park. The officers immediately give chase, calling it in over the radio. This goes from a bike stop to a foot pursuit in
just in July.
Then mid-pursuit, Sepulveda reaches into his waistband, pulls out a pistol, spins around, and opens fire on the officers chasing him. One of the officers is hit. The rounds strike him in both legs, and another bullet grazes his cheek. He goes down, but immediately gets back on the radio. LAPD officers from nearby.
Even if they got the gun off you, don't you think that would be a lesser charge than you shooting a police officer? I don't understand what these people be thinking.
Units start swarming the area around Martin Luther King Park. Sepulveda keeps running deeper into the park, but something goes wrong with his gun, so he tosses the weapon as he runs, and one of the pursuing officers grabs it off the ground while continuing the chase. Sepulveda hops a fence trying to escape, but another officer is right there. The officer tackles him hard to the ground, and within seconds, more officers swarm in. They get him in handcuffs and take him into custody. The gun officers recovered was a loaded 9mm ghost gun with no serial number. The injured officer was rushed to the hospital where he remained in stable condition. Getting shot in both legs and having a bullet graze your face during what started as a routine bike shop, that's about as close as it gets. Sepulveda also gets taken to the hospital for a laceration to his head sustained during the arrest. Once medically cleared, he was booked into custody. And on July 8, 2025, he was charged with 2 felony counts of premeditated attempted murder of a police officer and 1 felony count of carrying an unregistered loaded handgun. He had the audacity to plead not guilty at his arraignment, and the court set bail at $3 million. If convicted on all charges, he faces a possible maximum sentence of 75 years to life in state prison. And remember, this was just a bike with no brakes. A simple fix-it ticket, maybe a warning. Instead, an officer got shot 3 times in broad daylight near a public.
No, he would have got a gun charge because they were gonna search him because they seen like, wait, you got something poking out, and they told him to put his hands up. Or put your hands behind your back, or whatever they said. They were going to get the gun off of him. But still, that's a way lesser charge than fucking attempted murder.
All because someone decided a traffic stop wasn't worth complying with. Mark Peter. Not even a crowded supermarket on a Saturday afternoon is safe from violence. And this man in the black hoodie is telling officers he'll see this through to the end. no matter what it takes. Around 3:24 p.m. on June 24th, 2023, the manager of an AutoZone at 131 98th Street calls police about a suspicious person. There's a man slumped over the steering wheel of a car in the parking lot with the engine running and loud music blasting. He's been like that for about 2 hours. The manager mentions the guy has 2 knives visible in his shirt. When the first Albuquerque police officer arrives at 3:32 p.m., APD's real-time crime center sends out an alert. Use caution. The driver is 41-year-old Mark Peter, and he's got a history.
All of these criminals are so busted. 41 years old? This is what you look like at 41 years old?
Charges for battery on a peace officer, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and narcotic charges. As officers develop a plan and organize a response with both lethal and less lethal options, they discover Peter has a confirmed felony warrant and a misdemeanor warrant for his arrest. But this man isn't going down without a fight, and a high-speed chase breaks out in an instant. Police shredded his tires with spike strips, he ditched his car at a strip mall, and led officers on a foot chase behind the shops. This cop finds Peter walking towards him and immediately starts giving commands, pointing his rifle. Peter ignored him, ducked between 2 buildings, and rounded the corner of the El Mesquite Market. He started jogging straight for the front doors, and even though the sergeant screamed for his team to not let him inside, they were just too late.
Watch his hands. Go in. Get out of there! Get on the ground now!
Peter runs straight through the entrance into the crowded market. It's Saturday afternoon. There are employees at cash registers, customers pushing shopping carts, people everywhere. Officers sprint behind him. Peter quickly approaches the area near the registers where people are standing. Then he spins around towards the pursuing officers with a handgun in his right hand. One officer managed to hit him with a taser, but as he was falling, Peter opened fire directly at the police. It was chaos. Investigators later found that Peter fired at least 13 shots inside the crowded store. An autopsy showed Peter was hit 27 times, including 1 shot to his own thigh, and he died right there on the scene. The most incredible part of this entire story is that despite 59 rounds being fired in a packed supermarket, not a single customer or employee was hurt.
Good.
Jason King. Our final case takes us across the Atlantic to England, where a neighbor dispute turns into something straight out of a medieval warfare. It's May 10th, 2024, and there was already a long-lasting dispute. The previous day, 55-year-old Jason King had called police to report that his windows had been broken by a neighbor. Around mid-afternoon, King gets into an altercation with his neighbor, 63-year-old Alistair Mawudo, over a car that had been touched. The argument escalates quickly. King pulls out a small knife and stabs Mawudo in the stomach, but he survives. When the police arrive at the scene, the man is out of his mind.
Come on, mother.
Oh my God.
Kill.
He starts chasing officers down the street, hunting them with a crossbow. This gun that fires arrows with the pull of a trigger. King fires, and the bolt strikes the officer in the leg. By this point, armed response officers have arrived. King is out in the open, still carrying this crossbow and posting an active threat. Officers give multiple commands for him to put the weapon down and stay still, but he refuses. The armed officers make a decision. This man has already stabbed a neighbor, shot a police officer, and is actively hunting cops through a residential street. He's not stopping. An armed officer fires a single shot, striking King in the stomach. He finally goes down. Officers immediately move in to secure him and this crazy weapon. King is rushed to the hospital with potentially life-changing injuries. He's covered in blood, but so was the first officer he shot at. At the hospital, a doctor examines Foster's wound and tells him he was incredibly lucky. The crossbow bolts had come within a couple of centimeters of hitting an artery in the back of his leg. As for King, he was charged with wounding with intent, possession of a blade, and a fray. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison.
That's it?
Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this.
I think he should have got more time than that. What the hell? Listen, these people are psychotic. It's crazy that we share the planet with people like this. That is very scary, and they are dumb as hell. If y'all would have just took y'all lesser charge, y'all would have been good. But a lot of them are trying to kill the police officers to try to get away. You don't want to go to jail that bad? That's crazy. Interesting vid, though. Y'all let me know what y'all think, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.